All right, so tonight's topic is the commoditization of how and the rise of why in product development. We've got one of our co-organizers, Natalie, here. She's a co-founder of Mr. Simon, an AI-powered assessment tool, originally built for recruiting, now expanding into leadership coaching. She spent 15 years running a software engineering agency and recently made a deliberate detour into recruiting. Not to pivot, but to understand the market deeply before building for it. So her take is the how software is becoming the baseline expectation. So the ability to discover what's worth building is the skill gap that matters most right now. We also have with us Tim Biskup, who is an organizational leadership coach and founder of Growth Spectrum, whose coaching methodology maps behavioral competencies to leadership outcomes. He and Natalie are actually building some Mr. Simon related work together, adapting its AI to support client intake and progress tracking and leadership coaching. He brings a lens from marketing, where I actually worked for Tim for a while, and human systems behavior that will directly change what many think today. So, we have a great set of speakers tonight. I'm really looking forward to this. And what we're going to do is we're just going to have a conversation. I have a list of questions, but I'm probably going to go off road here and ask additional questions or things. If you folks have questions, if you would kindly put them in the chat, that would be awesome. And what I'll do is I will take a look at them occasionally. I'll also dedicate some time at the end, a good amount of time at the end for us to just have some free form questions from participants as well.
Questions or comments. They don't just have to be questions necessarily, right?
Absolutely. Thanks for help clarify. All right, who has questions on questions? All right. So again, when how becomes a commodity, AI product and the rise of why. So I'm going to kind of start with asking you a question, Natalie. So Mr. Simon started back in 2019 as something quite different from what it is today. Can you briefly walk us through the journey, what it was then and what it actually does now?
So to put it briefly, when we started with the initial idea of Mr. Simon, the idea was already quite big at that time, but the technical capabilities in the world of technology, were not up to the task yet. So what we had to do at that time was we implemented certain workarounds where Mr. Simon was started as a mock interview prep tool. And everyone wanted Mr. Simon to provide feedback on your answers, but AI was not there yet in 2019 and 2020. So what we did instead, we created a lot of content containing guidance on how you are supposed to answer. Instead of evaluation, Mr. Simon was providing guidance and advice and example answers, which people found valuable as well at that time, but it was still not at the level that I imagined Mr. Simon should be. And
Hmm.
then comes 2020. Who remembers what year was that?
Some event happened then.
2022, November,
Yeah.
I think,
Mhm.
when ChatGPT became available, and suddenly Mr. Simon experienced his beginning of his second life, right? And
Mhm.
so we started, we resumed development of Mr. Simon again. We added those real AI features where Mr. Simon engages in a conversation with you, and upon each answer you give to the mock interview question, Mr. Simon immediately evaluates your answer and provides other insights as well. And then at some point, I thought that, hey, I don't really have a good understanding how the other side of the table works, what the recruiters look for when they interview you. And
Mhm.
this is how I got interested in the recruiting side of this two sides of the table. And luckily, I found someone who agreed to collaborate with Mr. Simon. He's a recruiter. His name is Nick, Master Search Solutions. He has over 30 years of experience as a recruiter, and he was looking for an intern, and here I was. So our collaboration started a bit more than a year ago now, and we are now. I placed two candidates by
There you go.
yeah, along the way, and right now I'm really
Did those
happy
two candidates use Mr. Simon? I'm kind of curious.
with both of them. I
Trade
used
bias,
Mr.
I suppose.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
used Mr. Simon with both of them, and
Mm.
when I sent the video interview with a candidate to one of the hiring managers, they were already en route of hiring one candidate. They found themselves somehow, but
Mhm.
when they saw how beautiful my candidate was, they fell in love with her and they hired her instead. So it's
I hope
really,
not literally, but
yeah. Mhm. Yeah, so this is
all right,
about where I am with Mr. Simon right now.
got it. Hey Tim, welcome again. Can you tell us about what you do and how it ties to this topic, and maybe provide a story about how you arrived at what you do?
Sure. Um, so I'll start with, I guess, like the origin story. So what I've developed is a long career as an outsider. So originally, I actually started in an elite honors cohort within the engineering honors program at the University of Minnesota. So I was on a track towards like a very technical scientific route, but realized I didn't want to be an engineer. And the next role I took actually was a doorman. And one would think like that's a really weird flip, right? But what was great about the doorman was that I learned a very valuable lesson that is core to what I work on today, which is how to deliver value first and then worry about the money, right? So if you find ways to deliver extraordinary value and really understand what people need, you find that it actually just comes to you. You don't have to work for it. You don't have to put your hand out. You don't have to ask for it, right? So that's one of the critical things as I've then worked my way up through very operational and project management and product development and marketing. A lot of different rules. I was always brought in as like someone as an outsider to learn the system, but identify different ways to do things and get that set up and then walk off, right? I don't like sticking around. And so what's happened is in this ATS world, right? The systems are looking for specific job titles, and I don't have those because they always created a unique job for me. So I've literally had hiring managers tell me, "Well, you don't have experience budgeting." Like I had 100 people in a $10 million budget, and you don't think I budgeted? Like I didn't write in that I tie my shoes on my resume either, because there's 8 million things that I did. So basically the system didn't find a job title that matched and said, you obviously haven't done this, right? And I just recognized that with my breadth, people were telling me like, focus on one thing. I'm like, no. So what I realized that this kind of decision architecture, because what this comes down to is what the mature version of like, hey, deliver the value and the money comes is really comes down to the principal agent alignment, right? And you hear that used as the agency problem, and it's getting principals to understand what they're actually trying to accomplish instead of just thinking what they're trying to do. And then defining the criteria and rules and compensation plans that allow the agents then to do their work, whether that agent is the owner's executive team, whether it's the executive team down to the leadership team, or whether it's a business to an outsourced company, right? And so that principal agent alignment is about making sure that there's value in that transaction, making sure that you understand what both sides need and how to get there, and how to make sure that both sides are working towards a common goal. And that's really it's a mix of operations, it's a mix of marketing, it's a lot of psychology, and just a lot of that kind of like influencing and understanding people and acting against your nature. I think that's the core piece, right? Is being intentionally behaving different so that you don't let your strengths break the system and understand what the system needs and just find ways you don't change yourself, but you modify how you behave to become what the system needs to thrive. And then everything becomes a lot easier because things just start to flow and things work. All right, I'll stop there because I talk really long.
Yeah, reminds me of a lot what we do in terms of agile coaching, where it's the same thing. Like I'll throw in briefly here, but yeah, one of the folks that I learned from said the most important tool you've got in agility coaching is yourself and
Mhm.
the way that you show up, right? So helping those leaders work through the outcomes that you're talking about and trying to help them get clear on what they are because sometimes they don't understand where they're trying to go.
Yep. Growing
Yeah,
$25 million is not a strategy, that's an objective.
that's an objective, exactly. You need a strategy to go along with that. It doesn't automatically come. But it's the leadership, it's the process, it's it's the organizational structure, it's the culture, it's lots of things. So I'm with you, Kim. Um, yeah, the promise of today's conversation is that AI, and I'm seeing this, is turning the how of building software into a commodity, and the ability to ask why into either an edge or an afterthought. So, what do you folks think about that? What are your thoughts regarding that? Is AI like the how of building software a commodity, and is why going to be the edge?
You want me to go first, Natalie? Okay. So I'll take a step back because I love to do that. This
Mhm.
reminds me of when I first started programming back in the 80s, right? Like the COBOL and assembler guys were like, "Oh, you Fortran and Pascal guys have it easy. You can write in words." But it's very specific syntax. You had to know a ton of things. It had to be structured a certain way, and if you change one thing, the whole thing broke, right? Um, so to them, going from bits and bytes to actual like words was a big transition, right? And then when you got to object oriented, like everything changed. I know you're creating a Visual Basic, it's like, oh wow, I don't have to write all this stuff. I can just click dot and then the method comes up. And I think what I've seen with the AI coding, right, is that it's another one of those like democratizing access into trying to create code. But 90% of the people that I see trying it just don't understand what they're doing because they're not thinking through the structure, the why, like what am I trying to get out of this? Who am I doing it for? They're just thinking like, oh, I want to do this. Okay, do this, right? Or and so the whole concept of how to how to do more than just create the code, right? Like the action of creating the code isn't the value. That's an effort. Lines of code is an
Mhm.
action,
You
right?
might want to sit up a little bit.
Thanks. Go ahead, Christine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Keep
I'll
going.
put on mute. Go ahead, I'll put on mute. It's all good.
No, so to me, it's the next evolution. It's just it's to me, it's a really large jump, right? It completely changes. You don't have, so for example, I've had fun getting back into programming now because I just never got .NET and Sharp, C Sharp and all that. It just I could read it, but I couldn't create it.
Mhm.
So I can jump back in now because this is something you can easily write. But like when I compare what I've written to what other people have written, it's very structured, it's organized because it's like telling a team what to do, right? When I had PMs, Ken, or when I
Yeah,
had marketing teams, you could if I just asked them
when
to
we say
create,
PMs, this case you mean project managers. I want to be
yeah,
clear.
yep.
Yes, okay.
But if you just tell them to create something without giving them the context and establishing that relationship and understanding what they know and what you need to inform them of, right?
Hmm.
It's not going to turn out. So the same thing is happening now is that not only do you have to understand kind of like still the basics of software development, but you also have to understand how to communicate to a team because AI has now become like a team and people aren't
Yeah.
used to working through others. So these
Mhm.
people that have never worked through others and have never had anything to do with software now think they can write code. And I'm like, yeah, you can write stuff and you can spit out stuff and it'll do something. But is it
Yeah,
adding
like a
value? Is
friend
it
of
doing something of worth? Yeah.
yeah, one of the coaches that I work with, he has his own app that he developed in combination with somebody else, but it was all done using AI. The testing, the configuration, the code development was all done using Claude Code, and he had different roles that were tied to things in Claude Code to help him build it and test it and all that. He actually released it, I think, a couple of weeks ago or a week or two ago. But it's amazing to me, like, how the AI was interacting with him and he was interacting with the AI. Like he even had it set up so that he can communicate with the AI and get results through Zoom and stuff. And he had a kind of a virtual team of AI assistants that were doing this stuff. Um, the great thing about it is you could turn out code very quickly, and I think that's where I'm seeing also that how is becoming more of a commodity. Yeah. Natalie, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Um, could you repeat the initial question?
Yeah, I guess we did kind of go
Yep.
went down a couple of rabbit holes. Right, so the conversation is about how AI is turning the how of building software into the commodity, and the ability to ask why is the edge or afterthought, right? So, what are your thoughts regarding that dynamic?
Yeah, I'm seeing it a lot happening because I do not only work on the Mr. Simon product, but I also lead a team of engineers, and we serve corporate customers in hospitality, in some other sectors. We create digital products for them, and we collaborate very closely with our clients. So I see the corporate processes within the companies, and I see how easy it is today compared to even a year ago, even 6 months ago. I would say how easy it is to create products. Just one example that I find interesting. I'm quite involved with this project. I started it from scratch. Kicked off by identifying client needs. It is a product for revenue department to plan and verify their revenue across all hotels, rooms revenue.
Mhm.
Right now, other sources of revenue are out of scope. Rooms revenue is the core
Focus.
issue, a core focus at this
Yep.
stage. So first, I had to understand their process, right? I used AI heavily alongside the sessions we had with them, but then I used AI for note taking during my sessions, and then I used AI to help me summarize and identify the key things that we need to develop. Then AI helped me to put all that into a nice proposal. Then AI helped me to come up with a statement of work once the proposal was accepted. Then we worked with our design engineer to come up with a very quick prototype. Instead of
Mhm.
working with in Figma right now on the design of the product to run by stakeholders, we use AI coding tools to quickly prototype. It's much more visually impressive than just Figma. And then the code itself is created by other engineers with the use of AI. So a lot of things, and even right now, as we're approaching the handoff of the product, two things that we're using AI as well for is one is the variety of help desk support for users, things like video tutorials, AI tools can do tutorials for you these days.
You're too
Oh, yeah.
slow for that. Whoever X knocked them off, thanks.
Yeah, so now that for the handoff of the product, we're doing onboarding for the users, and AI helps so immensely with creating video tutorials and many other ways of embedding them in the product. The onboarding that you see as the first-time user, it's all AI. So many things, which brings me to the point that the how of product development, in product development, I cannot talk for other areas. I talk for product development. The how is so easy these days. You still have to have some head on your shoulders for sure, but it is so easy.
Yeah. So,
However, the why, um, if I may just finish this thought,
yep.
it was an aha moment for me a few years ago when we worked with a client and we were suggesting many product features to work on. And someone more senior, someone I really respect a lot, he came to our meeting and he said, okay, who is going to be happy if you guys implement this feature? Who is going to be happy if you implement that feature? And that really stuck with my memory. Who is going to be happy is exactly the why type question. But then which means which categories of users will be happy, and then what type of business is going to be happy, where does the money come, right? So this is the why type of question.
Yeah. Makes me think about like the four P's, right?
Right.
You know, It's not just the profit, right? It's profit, but it's also people, planet, and purpose,
Hmm.
right? Those things tie into things as well. So let me ask another kind of from a different angle. Like, um, when AI can do all this work for you, what doesn't change for people? Like, what's still stubbornly human? That's for
You go
either one of
first,
you.
Natalie.
So I can talk a bit about my experience in recruiting, where um, I definitely see which areas are best to be handled by humans versus where you can trust technology. Maybe not exactly today, but technology is improving so tremendously and quickly that you can entrust the technology more and more. There are still at least a few things where, as a recruiter, I would rather be the one working in person with a candidate. One is the technology cannot assess whether someone is likable.
Hmm.
And as a recruiter, it is so important. The example I gave a bit earlier about someone I placed because she was so lovely, and Mr. Simon showed that to me because she took Mr. Simon video interview, and when I saw that video interview, she was amazing, and I sent that to the hiring manager, and they definitely wanted to see her. So but I spoke with her as well. After that, I
Mhm.
asked her to do the video interview. And when I spoke with her as a human, I was able to recognize one thing, that she was extremely likable, and she still is. Technology would not be able probably to see that. Secondly, I saw that she is smart. And there are certain signals how you know someone is smart. You can also dissect that into smaller sub-signals. But I could see that she is really smart. Two things, she's likable and she's smart. The other things, AI is quite good at assessing the competencies, asking the deep dive questions, assessing how good the answers, how they show whether the person really knows what they're talking about. But likability, and if someone is really smart, they are open, they are right in the moment during the conversation, which all I think are parts of the smart, is someone I would rather judge myself rather than entrust the technology.
Yeah, it makes me think like, there's a lot of intangibles when we talk about things with interviews, like think about behavioral interviews and that sort of thing, where we're trying to get a little bit deeper with the folks than you could probably get in just a simple AI assessment or video recording. And ties back, I think, to Tim, what you were talking about, in your situation. I've got a very similar one as well, where you've got a very diverse background that in summation or in total is what your value proposition is. You've got multiple different wide ranges of skills and capabilities that can apply to multiple things. So I don't know, Tim, what do you think about this? What
Well,
can,
yeah. So first off,
yep.
Steve stole my short answer. So now you don't get my short answer. You're going to get my long answer.
Okay.
So good job, Steve.
Yep.
No. So what's interesting because you brought up those intangibles, and Natalie brought those up, and what's interesting is as we're working through helping Mr. Simon with developing into like being a coach, right? We first just took the interview and turned it into a completely behavioral interview. So we
Hmm.
created an interview for a role that was to be like a generic leader with AI strengths, and said, the ability to navigate paradox and ambiguity, the ability to be, like humble, the ability to be completely accountable and learning from your mistakes and stuff like that. And then set up, 6 questions against those.
Mm.
What I like about AI is that it does understand those things.
Hmm.
It can give you a factual list of how the person responded against those criteria and give evidence of things that they said that demonstrate those skills. So from a reading and reacting, and it can even come up with good follow-up questions to dig in to make sure that they can actually prove some of their points, like if they didn't, right? Um, but I think where it gets down to is that if AI was just doing everything, like every product would be the same, every business would be the same, there wouldn't be like it can't feel, it can't sense what people want. So what that when you get back to the why, it's about those motivations and what people want and what provides value. And I don't see that AI can ever do that.
Mm.
Right. So because for example, if you come to a road and you have to make a decision A versus B, right? And you put your pros and your cons, if you're doing an honest job, the pros to A are the cons to B, and the pros to B are the cons to A. There's no
Mm.
one answer that's ever completely 100% right. It's what's right for how you want to do this, what you can handle, what fits within the way that you and your organization are going to operate. And those are those feelings, those intuitions, those gut feels that I don't see AI ever being able to replicate. So it what it does a good job of is if you define those criteria and set those things out, it can give you very static and factual bullets that say where you fit against that, but it can't actually make that decision,
Yep.
right?
And Pritz, just FYI, we're doing Pritz is putting the questions in the chat, and I'll
Okay.
try to grab them from there. So Pritz,
Oh,
um,
I wasn't putting questions in the chat. I was going to just ask, how do you guys check? What's the mechanism for checking AI? For example, with Natalie's product about the revenue form. So revenue collection has its own um, set of rules where you get money in, you pay money out, that kind of thing. And somebody's presumably checking this to make sure it's not being siphoned off anywhere. I'll give you the example I've been working with. So I have a part-time thing where I consult with a photographer, does real estate work. And she discovered that you can use AI to edit photographs. And so now she's looking at the editing on the photographs. I see Steve shaking his head. And it's not the right color green. How do you get the right color green? How do you get the thing to lighten up the darker aspects of the whatever the building is? So, so it's possible to communicate with AI and get it to lighten the certain sections and so on. But
do you have a question, Pritz?
yeah, the question is on the technical stuff, like revenue flow, who's checking what? Are we
Okay.
relying on AI to do its own check, or are we also um, having some kind of manual oversight somehow, or some
Yeah.
sort of code? Who verifies the code is actually doing it and not siphoning it off?
Yeah.
I got
Tim or
one
Natalie,
other.
would Tim or
I
Natalie?
got I
Yep.
got one other thing to add to that. I had a friend who worked for Bank of America, and they always had the most elaborate Christmas parties. Back in the day, we called them Christmas parties, and nobody could figure out how he paid for it.
Okay. Yeah. Tim or Natalie, do you have I've got an answer for that, but I'm kind of curious. Tim or Natalie, do you have anything you want to play in on that one?
So it's just one quick thing that am convinced, even if you cannot trust AI in certain things today, it is definitely getting better. It will get better. Uh, Plenty of people are working day and night on making AI much better. So I trust in this aspect, the progress is coming and it's getting better and better.
But yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, any coding that I do with AI, I am always doing 100% of the QA and UAT. And so, for example, I was doing Gemini gems and Monday agents, trying to do the same thing. And in Gemini, it was like an 80% failure rate. It kept adding lines, kept adding lines. It would start getting slightly better. I'm like, hey, read the whole darn file. Oh no, I still decided to skip Victor. No, that's not right. But then when I got to a point where what we tried it in the Monday, like those Monday agents were just so much more strong. Like they just passed every test. But the only way to know that, right, is that you've got to be in actually doing the testing and verifying the numbers and looking at it and making sure. And what I found with the Gemini gems was once I put that QA step within its own code, it started getting better. When I was like, okay, do this, show your work, tell me that these numbers match, go and run this, then suddenly it got a lot better at being right, but it would still make mistakes.
Yeah, I think there are certain things I'm gonna if you don't mind, I'm going to throw my own hat in a little bit here. Um, there are certain things that you want to retain decision rights on. Things like pricing, legal contracts, discussions or conversations with customers ideally should be human engaged as well and not just use AI. Hiring and certainly firing decisions, right? Those things should be retained. And then anything that you would then report out on. From a regulatory point of view, you got to have human eyes on that kind of stuff.
And then actually, Steve, to the one question you had in there, like which decisions do you let it make? I mean, so far, I have not decided to let it make any decisions. Like I let it make proposals, tag people, and then they can quick reply yes, no, or do this. Right. So I'm not at the point where I want 100% automated making decisions because just by giving the people the information and the data and giving them a choice what to do, that frees up their time significantly. Like if I can save the person an hour and have them do something, right? By now taking 15 seconds to read the message and reply yes, I've saved a lot of time, but I've still made sure that there's a fail safe.
Yep.
Go ahead, Steve.
So I agree when the decision goes through a channel that goes to another human. Yes, that I don't allow, right? Because I don't trust it. There are, and this sort of goes to where my second question was. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on how do you think about thinking about which decisions you let AI make? For example, to try and give a concrete example, when I'm coding or building something, um, if it's a reversible decision, I'll let AI make it. Or if the blast radius or consequences are low,
Right.
which also says, oh, how do I build guardrails around that? But I'm only supposed to ask questions. So how do you think about thinking about making decisions? What you would let it make decisions and what you wouldn't, or you're more in the camp of I'm not ready to let it make decisions, period.
I think so. I think what you're talking about there, Steve, like I would be comfortable if I know the decisions that it's made and if I have a way to double check and verify that someone can catch those bad decisions. So I mean, and again, this is where I don't say this is AI's fault. I've managed teams of 100 people, right? And I've managed call centers of like 700 people. People make mistakes all the damn time. And if you don't have processes in place to see when people make bad decisions and mess things up, right? Like, so to me, I treat AI like it's another person. There has to be some sort of control. There has to be some sort of monitoring. There has to be some way of knowing what these things are doing, not line by line, but you have some monitoring and some control because it, I find AI it's just as dumb and just as smart as people.
Yeah. What I heard on it was treat AI as a really smart intern.
Yep.
You know? So,
And then there's a question from Jack here that I just
yep.
saw.
Hmm.
So I will tell you right off the bat, Jack, I hate the term prompt engineering. Unless you're doing what Natalie's doing, the word prompt engineering needs to be banned from the English language. Um, like I said before, like I talk to it like I'm talking to a team. So if I'm doing creative, I put as much as I would put into a creative brief. And oftentimes I'm writing that in documents, one or two, and then feeding those in and asking a question and expecting it to read all of that or building on that and having conversations back and forth. Because even with a creative team, right? Like I fill out the brief, we have a meeting, have all this, and there's still time I have to go back and reshape them and tell them, well, no, this is what we're trying to accomplish, right? I mean, and even something as silly as right green, but that's uh, to me, the single user prompt is the reason why we're having all these stupid arguments about AI slop. There's I mean, if I want to, okay, give me a good recipe for like how to cook a rib roast. Great. That's a good single prompt. But I just feel in business, you get what you get out. And if you're not putting good stuff in, you're not going to get great stuff out.
Yeah. We'll throw in on this one real briefly too. What I tend to do is I try to ask it to come at it from a point of view. So I'll prompt AI, this is your role. This is what you've got in terms of your skills, knowledge, capability, right? But the two other things I tend to do are um, ask me, AI, what questions you think you're going to need to answer this. And the other one
Mhm.
is tell me what your plan is and how you're going to do this before you actually do it. So that way I can kind of head it off at the pass if it's going to go down the wrong direction. Um, Natalie, did you have anything you wanted to add on that topic? On any of these topics?
So
Let me
what
know.
I'm thinking is we just had quite a lively discussion on what I see some various aspects of the how.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Do we have any questions at this point before we proceed with what Ken is leading us through? Do we have any questions on the why aspect? I'm sure Brett, being who I know Brett is definitely someone who thinks more about the why rather than a how. Um, and I have not heard anything from you yet in this call. Maybe, Brett, you can say a couple of words about yourself and what do you think about the importance, the rise of the why?
Yeah, so I'm a product manager by trade, lead a team of product folks in a kind of medium-sized organization, and I'm on the AI experience side. So I'm using AI to build AI to help large corporations transform their organization with AI. So it's like the inception version of AI is the world that I live in. It's like 3 layers deep of like I'm using it to build things that large organizations are going to use to help their teams kind of work through everything we're talking about here. I think, where I see things evolving, and it's really in like the world I'm day in and day out working in, is just kind of judgment becoming, judgment and the why being where the value is, right? The value in teams, the value in employees, because like you said, it's not only is it kind of made the how commoditized, it's changed made it's like completely changed roles. Like I actually work with a few folks that were kind of by trade product designers. So design background, product designers. Hey, I can prototype now. Anyone on this call right now can build really effective prototypes. So how does that change the design role? And some of that change has been them leaning more into some product management type things. So getting more involved in working with customers directly and helping to prove out the why and what's most important. But at the same time, there is still a need for their design judgment. What kind of my world, what AI is really good at, like we give AI a design system that's been created, like, oh, here's how we build this pretty large scale product. That makes it much easier when we need to do what I would call production design work. Like we need to just crank out, drop down menus and just kind of like how general elements should look and feel on an average page in this software product. That's not really a good use of the designer's time. So I would argue not only is the why become way more important and judgment become more important, the thinking side of all of this work, you now have a much greater ability to put the right level of effort into those things. It's because you're not kind of stuck and constrained by being fearful that, hey, we're going to build the wrong thing. Now it's much more of, and I say this all the time, the world is now able to actually be agile.
Mhm.
Full disclosure, I have worked in many, many organizations. Not a single one I would say follows real agile from the manifesto side, from what it's
Right.
supposed to be. It is waterfall with ceremonies.
Yep.
That's it. Have you seen it every time? But the world is finally changed, right? So in my world, like we have now moved to prototype first and iterate. Let's
Mhm.
go as quickly as we can, get to a prototype, because Natalie, you made the point, right? You see that, it drives a way better discussion than an epic, all of the kind of things that we've done in the past to document this and have all the detail, like show
Yep.
me, let me interact with it. So yeah, no, I mean, I think, what's good about at least where I am, right? It's an organization where they believe in not just, hey, let's just cut a ton of people because we can do all this with AI. It's really about how do we do more? How do we do more and still maintain quality? How do we still maintain we're building the right stuff to make people happy, to drive the outcomes that we've set out to do? And it's, I mean, even with all of that, right, it's still hard because I think the more you do it, the more, and I think another side of it is so much of what I do in being kind of more intelligent about the decisions I'm making and the why I'm making is very much using AI and being and what AI does for me that is very difficult to do as a human is I can take so much information, take, months of data across a spreadsheet with, 50 tabs, and AI doesn't even think twice. Like it can analyze all that, give me really great information. I can have a great conversation and turn that into really powerful things to help drive that judgment and that decision. So I think it's just really, again, to me, the why is more
Mhm.
of the game. I can also make the case. Most of us are living in worlds where you're building on top of an existing code base that maybe have existed for many, many years. And sometimes some of that AI build can run into some things unforeseen. And also, too, I think the other thing, specifically in my world where it gets tricky, and this is more of an, I know, Tim, you were talking about prompts and prompt engineering. There is kind of an assumption that the general world understands what to do with an open chat line. Like, oh, we just assume people know what to do. So a lot of people are building these products that are assuming people know how to do that. And I will tell you, more often than not, people really don't know what to do
Yeah.
to get good output. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's something out of here that I'd love to kind of circle back on, right? Um, given the roles that we talked about in this session, right? We've got Scrum Masters, Agile coaches, product managers, maybe even some development folks, right? We could see that AI is taking over some of the work and some of the um, core skills and competencies associated with those roles. In other places, it isn't. So, if how is becoming a commodity, um, what competencies do you feel are going obsolete and what is becoming more valuable? I'm going to throw that to Tim and or Natalie.
So I have an answer, but I'll wait for Natalie because I went last.
I am also looking at the chat right now, and Steve, you are bombarding the group with questions, but some of them I really like more than others.
Yeah.
Questions slash comments. I especially like the one where you are saying another question could be, how do you deal with uncertainty? And this is a favorite subject between Tim and myself, dealing with uncertainty, ambiguity, and paradox. I even, by the way, Tim, recently downloaded a book and started reading. It's called something along the lines of From Either Or to Both.
Mm.
And the book talks about how we should, when presented with a paradox, we should use the approach that you used earlier in this call by stepping back and asking a question, hey, why do I even have to choose either or? Maybe there is another way come altogether about looking at the situation altogether. And this is the book I'm reading right now. When I'm done with it, I'm happy to share the highlights of the book, but it's a really good subject. So how do you deal with uncertainty? It's a good one, and definitely AI cannot replace people in this one, right? Uncertainty is by definition something where humans are welcome to deal with. And when we were thinking about having this session right now that we're having, my main thought was about gearing towards the future of work. not so much in to be caught in the crossroads of how do we use this AI or that AI, but rather what's down the road there? What is the future of work? Probably dealing with uncertainty is always will always remain to be a human thing. That's what I'm thinking.
And
But
I'll jump on there because I think I can take the uncertainty piece and then tie it into the skills that are going away and what's kind of becoming favorable, right? So I'm going to take a
Thank you.
story from when I was setting up my M&M's operations. It had run for 6 months with like engineers from the factory creating some of the processes and some of the e-commerce specialists creating the other ones. And so they created this hybrid quilt of best practices from both industries. And when I looked at what they were doing, I'm like, none of this makes sense, right? And I started asking questions and I'm like, I don't get this, right? And so there was things that we had to disassemble because when we looked at the data, like, yeah, this process makes sense in pick, pack, and ship, but we're assembling to order personalized product that's one SKU, right? So instead of going over and scanning a wall of UPC codes, like if every product is just one UPC code, but it's 18 million varieties unique to a customer, that needs a different process. So we had to disassemble all those processes and build new ones from scratch using what we were seeing in the data and interpreting that into how it needed to be. So where this ties into the actual question, right? Like that was going into ambiguity. This was a new business, and what the first set of engineers did is they relied on what they know, right? So if you think of like what I can do now, if I was setting up my M&Ms, I could easily ask it what's the best way to do pick, pack, and ship in e-commerce. I could ask it what's the best way to manufacture candy. And it could give me all of those best practices and standards, and I could get what the initial engineers came up with. So the knowledge from a book and Six Sigma of the right way to structure something, I could get from AI. That managerial courage to stand up to people and say, like, this isn't right, and have people with double doctorates telling me that I was stupid, but going and doing it anyways and taking us from 50% on time to 99% on time within like a month, right? That took knowing when to not believe what you're being told, not believe what the best practice is, because I knew intuitively that scanning a wall didn't make sense. But everybody thought that was the best idea that the engineers came up with. And actually, the general manager was advertising how great that was when he was doing a video to the company.
Yeah,
Like that's how
it's
much weight there was behind this stupid decision. But because no one was thinking, hey, in this new world, we're doing something different. What does this need to be? So AI can give you what's currently the thinking. AI can't tell you how to fix it. Now, interestingly, as just one last side note on this, when I told this story to AI, because I wanted it to help me kind of like reframe it in a way that people would understand, I was like, oh, that was really great thinking. Like what you realize is that you couldn't do this and you couldn't do that. I'm like, afterwards, it can tell me that what I did was right. It would have had no idea to tell me that that was right at the time. Is my guess, right? So we'll have to start a new business that's completely new but looks like two different things and test it.
yeah, I think about like one of the challenges I faced at work recently where, we had an issue where they basically were trying to apply the wrong solution to a particular set of problems. And the focus was on teams that were having problems and issues, rather than trying to look at the positive spots where things were working and saying, hey, you know what? It's working over here. Maybe it'll work over there. Let's kind of figure out what we're going to do and whether it makes sense. Asking decomposing questions of, asking the questions to help people think about these things. Is this really what you're going for? Um, and then also trying to understand the politics and the dynamics of influence and timing. I can imagine that AI would not be good at those things, and all of
Mhm.
those things are necessary to affect change, real change. Good, Steve.
So I'm loving this discussion, and
Mhm.
Tim, Natalie, and everybody else, I'll buy you a beer. Let's go out and have a further one on uncertainty and eroding. So, and I had a good question, and I just completely blank. Oh, okay. So really liked your answer, Ken. It sort of led to really understanding the particular context and what is the problem you're trying to solve, et cetera. But so Kent Beck gave a great talk, around AI And he said, now nobody knows. We used to have a set of playbooks on how to do software, and if you knew the playbook and the rules, you could do really well. Now, in the age of AI, code is free. Nobody knows the rules, and his answer is nobody knows, especially me. Right? So it's so my current thinking on it, and by the way, I need to be told where I'm wrong. I don't like it, but I need to it, so please correct me. Is it's play. You got to play around, try it, but not by yourself,
Yep.
with other people in discussion, which is what XP was in the Agile Manifesto, discussion amongst people, right? And then learning together, ideally in your own context and on your own work. So you don't like cargo cult or mix a bunch of this worked here and this worked there, and I'll shut up right after this last story, is when I've heard this and read about it. When GM, sort of looked at Toyota, they said, "Oh, they were hiding stuff from us." No, they had a bunch of tacit knowledge that they couldn't even understand. When I was just reading something on Zeiss makes the world's greatest lenses. And why has nobody stolen it? Chinese would pay millions of dollars to these people, but they don't even know. Right? But yeah, I'm gonna shut up now.
All right, I'm going to circle us back to my question because I want to get it answered. Um, right? What are the current competencies that are becoming obsolete, and which ones are becoming more valuable for the set of roles that we're talking about?
So I think if I were to distill what Steve and I and Natalie were talking about, right? Like I
Yep.
was getting at the skills of knowledge, right? The skills of like, oh, this is the standard, this is the way that this should work, right? Task oriented, right? So the idea that you have to know C# syntax to code anymore, okay, that's gone, right? But the why, or like Steve was talking about, like working with other people, right? So that's where that diversity of human thought, I think, comes in handy, right? Like when you bring in people with different points of view and different ways of seeing the problem and different ways of solving problems, right? We as humans can solve them better and provide that good direction and get through that ambiguity together. So but that's to me the nature of the why, right? The nature is you've got to get multiple sources, merge it together, think through why, what you're going through, and then like Natalie was talking about earlier, like who's your audience? Who's the user? Why are they using this? What are you trying to get out of this, right? Because you can get so hung up on the how you're going to execute, but the human value is understanding why this thing exists and what
Who
it's
is
providing.
going to be happy, right?
Yep.
Who is going to be happy if we do this? Yeah.
So, yeah, I've heard inclusion of diversity, representation, expertise, and involvement someplace earlier in the session. I don't
I think
remember
that
where.
came from you, Ken. Yeah.
Uh,
There was one other question by Steve that I really liked, or
mhm.
comment. It was about how do you come up with, how do you quickly discover the why, especially in a situation when there is limited data? I like this one a lot because it speaks to me. I like in such cases, and I'm really good at this, to come up with assumptions. So whatever missing pieces there are, be brave enough to put on your own assumptions and present it to other people. Right. Run it by other people who know something about the subject matter and ask them, hey, what do you see wrong here in this picture? This has worked for me on so many occasions. So it's in my toolbox, the skill of coming up with assumptions. What do you guys think about this?
Mhm. Yeah, I like that. And also, and Brett can probably talk to this, is about empathy interviews or context interviews, right? There was one client that I worked with where I interviewed 25 different people. I did use AI to take all of their answers, which I had written down, and have it help me to figure out what the common vocabulary was, what the common concerns were, that kind of stuff. So I could even kind of tweak what I came up with to make sure it aligned better with their language and with their concerns, and hopefully to get it from different points of view that I wouldn't be able to see.
Mhm.
Um, but I needed to have that human judgment, that human interaction of saying, you know what? I understand where AI might have gotten this potential solution, but my gut says in this context and based upon the politics and based upon the timing, this piece will not work. All right. This other idea that I've got out here is more applicable. So, it's that whole applying the human knowledge and experience to it is important as well. And I think that ties back to one of your questions, Steve, related to internship, right? How do you handle folks that are new in relation to this new world, right?
Yeah, I think
Yep.
that's the big struggle is, in the software world, there's a big article on the death of the junior engineer, and they weren't hiring junior engineers anymore. Like, where are you going to get the senior ones from? So I have some thoughts on that I'm not going to go into, but that is a problem. But I really liked your empathy interviews. And what I would add to all the value you said, and well, forget where I've used them, is it actually builds credibility for you with the teams you're talking to. And finally, somebody listened to me. And like my kids took this speaking course, and I keep quoting it. People don't care what you have to say until they know you care.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So you're building relationships
Yes.
and you're understanding the why. What is maybe why is the wrong word, but what is the problem they need solved?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And
Well, that's
that
a
It
lot of
is,
that
it
surgery.
is
is the why.
more than half
Yes,
the battle.
it is
Yep.
the why. Yes, it is the why.
Yeah, and I think
What problem?
I think a part of it is also asking the right questions to help them discover what their why is, because it
Yep.
may not, the why that they think it is may not be the actual why.
And that corresponds to like
Mhm.
new people at work. And I think I'm
Yep.
assuming a majority of us are also parents, right? Like I have 7 kids. I have 2 kids on the autism spectrum. One has a functional IQ of 47,
Mhm.
right? Um, what you learn is it's a what everybody has to deal with, that balance of like, okay, how do I give the kid the chance to learn some of these lessons on their own in a safe environment? How do I get them to think through what the outcomes are and what they're right? So those same skills, as you're trying to develop your little baby humans that you're responsible for, guess what? They now become somebody else's baby humans as a junior coders, junior PR people, junior operations people. And I'm seeing this across the board is that I'm whether it's in marketing, operations, or in code, nobody's looking to invest the time in junior people anymore right now. So, and in order to make the reason they don't want the junior people is because they don't want to have to invest that time. But like the time is worth it because you may find that there's some really good people there. You just have to give them those little bits of information, tell them what things you want to find, have them find out, come back to you, and then use those reflective questions that you use with your kids. Why does that make sense? Why do you think that's a good idea? Like, what do you think is going to happen if you do this, right? And then challenge those assumptions and get them to really kind of think through that stuff. So developing junior people is no different than like raising your kids. And I don't know why we suddenly decided that like they're 22 and they don't need raising. It's like they do. And we all needed that. I think of decisions I made in business when I was like in my early 20s. I'm like, oh God, Tim, you were an idiot, right? It's just there's things you have to learn.
Yeah, I think about the whole concept that your brain is not fully developed until you're what, 25, 26 or something like that.
I'm thinking 58.
Well, I mean, yeah,
I'm 66. I'm still working on it, guys.
yeah,
Come
still
on.
right, yeah, exactly. But I'm saying the physical brain
Yeah.
development.
Oh,
Yeah. The
oh,
cortex
that's
itself. Yeah.
The
deteriorated long
cortex,
time.
yeah,
All right,
yeah.
I'm going on mute. Sorry.
No, but you're right, Steve. Like, I absolutely agree with you that
So,
yeah, the
Tim,
plasticity is important.
Tim, since you mentioned children, I'll mention my daughter graduated from Rutgers Engineering and got herself a little job. Oh no, it was a summer job for a candy company, and they gave her the assignment. They wanted to know, without destructive testing, how much non-chocolate stuff was in the candy bar. like
Mm.
nuts or raisins, so on. And it's a logically impossible thing to answer because they wanted to know within some degree of precision, and they're just waiting for the kid who has this kind of genius insight about using ultrasound to do, I don't know, whatever. So, of course, she didn't come up with it, and she was
Yeah.
very sad about it, that she couldn't help them out. And they said, "Don't worry about it. We give this thing to everybody. We want you to learn what the product is and what the process is that produces it." And so you got all that. And so now she's working in nuclear power engineering. So uh, you'll be glad to know we're in good hands as far as that's concerned. But
Well, that's good. Yeah.
but you're right. There's no. I don't understand how the corporations think they're going to live if there's no pipeline for skilled people.
And the
I
example that you gave is a perfect way of, I don't want to be bothered. Give them an impossible solution that requires them to learn everything and then find out that there's no way to answer it, right? So she got a lesson on everything she needs to know about that company without having to come back and ask anybody anything.
well, and they know that, and so that it I worked on a project in an insurance company, and it was the opposite of that, where there were corporate decisions about everything. They just wanted the computer system work faster so they could deny the claims quicker.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
that was not necessarily a why that anybody outside of the company wanted to have, but they and the shareholders, I guess, were all very pleased with it. All right, now I'm going to stop.
Yeah. I come back to the four Ps and they keep ignoring some of those and there's going to be a, yep. Anyway. Um, so let's kind of put our prognostication hats on for a minute here. How do you envision AI will be used for product management and development in the future? Or how do you envision the whole product understanding the why changing over time, over the next few years?
So I can use a quick example that it was a bad product decision, but it
Mhm.
illustrated to me what the potential could be if you just reframe the way that it was doing. So the company I was working for was trying to create an AI tool that would go out and scan everything that was being said about a product and then write what should go on the website to describe the product, right? And I'm like, anybody who's worked with like product managers in a world where you're selling physical product know that they're bound by legal. Like there's things they can say and they can't say. So
Mhm.
you're never going to get AI to write the product description on the website because that thing has to be vetted by legal. But what we were training it to do then is to look at where there was the biggest gaps between what people said about the product and what the product description was, and what insights can be gleaned from that, and what should we be looking at or what should we be doing. So from that standpoint, like if you're looking for like what people are suggesting, what people are saying, like it can go out and do all that research and find all that stuff, and it can synthesize it and categorize it and help you to understand what where the big players are. I don't know that it's good on the emotional value, and I don't know that it's good on some of the volumetrics, right? But I think from the standpoint of like, can you use AI as a really easy research assistant to see what how it's being perceived and how it's being treated so that you as a product team can be open to that negative and positive praise and figure out where you kind of need to take this stuff instead of it always being like, oh, well, I can do this. Right. So that was a lot of what I saw at the chocolate company I worked for, which was,
Mhm.
it, hey, we can do this. Well, that's doesn't mean it means anything to consumers, right? Like what do people actually want? Right. So to me, like if you've got a way of kind of getting that research without doing like small panels in the mall, right? I think that that's where AI can be very helpful from that standpoint, is to help you understand where there's gaps, but I don't know that it knows. I think that value proposition and the why is inherently not in its wheelhouse to generate.
Yeah, like what do you think about the future though, Tim? Like where do you think this is going to head?
Well, if we're smart, we'll make sure that we're using it for that collation of that research and not letting it make decisions off of it, because I think we'll end up in a very homogeneous product zone
Hmm.
quickly if we let AI do that critical human part.
Yep.
So that's my thought on the future part. Natalie or Ken, do you have anything on that?
Yeah, Natalie, what are your thoughts on it?
I agree. So with the how, AI is getting better and better. And for the sake of exercise, we can think that, okay, let's imagine a year from now, if we need to develop a new product, AI can help identify the scope of the product, check. AI can help create a proposal, check. Create a statement of work, check. Create a prototype, check. Create the code, check. Do the QA, check. Do the handover, training, onboarding, check. This is what I already am seeing quite a lot. It's not yet perfect, but it's definitely getting better. What is left and what is, I would say, equals to the why is the discovery, which is product discovery. And this is where I'm thinking, would you agree, Tim, that this is where we can talk safely about product discovery being very much in lockstep with market discovery,
Mhm.
identifying the needs and also where the money is. So
Yep.
people's needs is one, and where the money is two, right? And this is very much product discovery equals market discovery. And I agree with you that this is something where AI can help us summarize the
Yep.
information, but this is critically important that the decisions are made by us humans. Otherwise, it will be a very boring world, really
Right.
very boring. So what do you think, Brett? I would like to ask Brett's opinion on, do you see this way that discovery is going to become so important and product discovery will meet market discovery to a huge extent? What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think getting back to, and I forget who made the point around AI only knows what we've told it or what information we've given it. It can't see what is coming down the pike. It doesn't have that kind of prescience yet. But I will say, specifically around discovery, and this is another reason I think I'm confident that that judgment and being the ultimate determiner of the why or why it's worth doing is still going to live in the hands of the human is because if you think about one of the lessons I teach kind of any junior product person I work with is the job is not taking what the customer asks for
Mhm.
and turning that into a product. It is reading between the lines, elevating it to a more broader problem or issue that's worth solving and solving that problem. Like that, the value and what's going to do the right business outcome you're trying to get to is understanding that. And AI is very helpful. And Ken, you made the point about being able to go through lots of exit interviews or NPS surveys and all this data it can churn. And to me, what's really interesting about it is getting like, give me all the facts, give me the themes. It can accelerate the process of getting to a wine. But to me, I don't see the ability to just understand like the nuances,
Mhm.
that you had those conversations. They might say these things are all important, but the way they express things, where they got excited when you showed them a demo, like what got them excited, like I just think that stuff is going to be harder and harder for AI to do a whole heck of a lot with, at least in the foreseeable future. And I think one other thing I wanted to throw out there, kind of back to the no one's hiring junior folks, I also think that is a cyclical thing. I think that is going to change. One, because everyone will start realizing, oh my God, we don't have a pipeline. But also, and kind of work I'm kind of in the world right now is how AI can accelerate how we learn a new product, how we learn a new company, how like so there will be less of a time investment in people as we get smarter of how to use AI to do that. And I see that being how this evolves to a certain degree. Like, oh, I can bring someone in off the street that we know is very smart. Again, it's like intelligence and and curiosity, like all the things that I think make good product builders and good leaders in organizations, those are still going to remain the same. We're just going to have
Mhm.
a better toolkit to get them the kind of industry context, all that stuff can be accelerated, and you don't have to waste so much time reading through. I can take 10 massive documents, like tell me what matters here. Claude,
Yep.
Right.
tell me what's interesting, what matters,
Hmm.
and just accelerate the whole thing. And I think that's something that people haven't embraced it. The last thing I'm going to say is I think more and more large organizations and even smaller organizations are starting to realize AI is not free. And
Yes.
and
Right.
I think we're all thinking like, oh my God, and in even tons of articles about, oh my God, it's cheaper for us to have the physical people doing these jobs than actually having AI do it. Like, oh my God.
Mhm.
So I think we've all lived through many cycles and things that have
Yep.
changed and evolved technologically. This is one of them. This one's a little bit more interesting, I think. But I think in general, there's still a lot more we don't know. So
Yeah.
I think it's just a really interesting time, and one that, if you're smart and ambitious and curious and create good product and can have good interactions with people, right now, we need people to buy things and
Yep.
people to create things that are worth buying. And I think
Yep.
until that changes, there is always going to be kind of a necessary human element here. So that's
Yeah. I think
that's my
it ties to the complexity that Steve had mentioned as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Because the
so
humanity complexity is what's huge, Ken, right?
oh yeah.
I'm going to jokingly say, right, like my wife and I have very different humanities, right? Like the way we look at things, the way we solve problems, the way we understand things, our preferences are 180 degrees opposite.
Hell
And I'm sure
yeah.
that she would say
Yep.
that like my humanities are my biggest flaw. But I think those flaws, quote unquote, that we have as humans may actually be that strength. It's that ability to see things different, to see the illogical sometimes.
Yeah,
Because
it's
I think
dialectic.
pure logic, right? Like you end up like
Mhm.
Spock. And I think that's the best place AI can get to as a Spock. And that's just not a human experience, and it won't be able to really take on humanity, right? So there's always going to be that element of humanity, which may be considered random, right?
Okay.
But I think sorry, I'm gonna stop there.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, because we're running on time
Yeah.
at this point. Real briefly, for both Tim and Natalie, if there were one additional point that we either didn't cover or one statement that you want to make sure that we heard before we left, in one or two sentences, what would it be?
I just said mine, so I'll let you guys go.
Okay, good, Natalie.
So the phrase that I mentioned already a couple of times, the why is equal to discovery. And in product, the key question is who is going to be happy?
Mhm. Awesome. Thank you. All right. We'll take another 2, 3 minutes for open questions if anybody has them. Let's keep them brief though. So, does anybody have any questions? Go ahead and raise your hands.
Yeah, we have folks who have not spoken, who are not on cameras. It is Christina, Danielle, Crystal, Anna, Christine, Matt, and Dave. You guys joined later.
Yeah, we
Is
invite you
there
to join in. Yep.
is there anything you'd like to talk about?
Questions
Thank
that you
you,
have.
Nat. This is Anna. Thank you, Natalie, I, for sharing your project incorporating in AI. That was very interesting. And yes, it's so important. This topic was, thanks everyone for the great topic and discussion because it's so important to continue to learn and keep updated with this, topics, regarding the AI. So I just want to thank everyone.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for joining, Anna. Anna is a QA specialist. I know Anna.
Oh, awesome. Welcome. All right. Who else has a question?
In general, I think we had a very interesting discussion, and I like all the folks who contributed. We should
Mhm.
be getting together once in a while to exchange, at least like once every 3 months or so, because life is bringing new and new twists every month or so, right?
Yeah.
Professional life, I mean.
Mhm. All right, so I want to thank Natalie and Tim and everybody who played in on the conversation. Thank you so much. Just a reminder that, again, September 16th, we've got Ronica Roth who's coming and talking to us about how practice makes culture. She just finished the new book with her and Christine Hudson. It's coming out next week. She's going to talk to us about, practice makes culture, better business results, and happier humans. Um, Love to see you folks there in that conversation. Thanks again to everybody for your participation, your questions, and all. And I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your day. Thank you. Be
Thank you
well,
for
everyone.
moderating, Ken.
Yep.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Ken.
Bye,
Yep.
guys.
Yep.